Hello everyone, my name is Eric Dittus, and today I'm going to be doing a quick demo on the animation controller for Unity. So firstly, I'm just going to start out with a 3D project, and I've already added a plane, and I've just changed the camera to go towards the center. Um, Firstly, I just want to give credit to iHeartGameDev on YouTube. I'm going to put a link to the tutorials that I watched in the description, and you guys can look those over too for greater detail. Um, so firstly, what you want to do is you want to go to Mixamo and download a character model as well as movement. But what's important to note that is that when you select a movement that would cause a character to move, you want to make sure to select in place, which will just make sure that the character is not moving while you're working with it and testing it, to show the transition and movement when you do that. So first, let's get those. I used Exo Gray as a character, and then 3 movements: idle, walking, and running. I'm going to make a folder for character and a folder for animations. Okay, let's go into character. Let's, about that one. Let's put Exo Gray in there. Cool. Just gonna pop him in the scene. And then what you'll see here is that he doesn't have a skin. So what you want to do is you want to click on him here, go to Materials, Extract Textures, select that, and it should import it onto him. Here you go. So now he's got his skins. So now go back to animations. You're going to want to put your animations there. These animations should be ones that seem logical sequentially. So that's why I did idle, walking, and running. And now what you'll notice is this includes the skins and everything with the character. You could download it separately with just the animation, but I just like to have the characters in there because it looks interesting. So what you're going to want to do is you want to separate the animation from these models. So what you do is for Mac, you do Command D. I think Windows is Control D. And then I'm just going to rename these to what they are. Idle. This is going to be running. I'm going to do Control D. Rename it to running. And lastly, walking. Walk. Okay, now what's important to do is when you select these, you're going to want to click loop time. What that does is it makes sure that the action will be looping and won't just cease the entire process when you work in the animation controller. Okay, now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create an animator controller. And then I'm going to name this Exo Gray controller. And then what you can do is you click on the character, you add component, and you do animator, and then you drag this controller into the animation controller. Now, you want to be able to go to this controller and then change it around. So what you can do is you can double click this, and that'll send you to this animator editor. And every editor starts off like this, where you have an entry and an exit. Now, what you can do, I'm just going to organize this real quick. Exit over here. And you can drag and drop these elements into the editor. And what you'll notice is that the first thing that gets placed in here will automatically be the default start animation. what you can do is you can right click and set this as default, and that changes it from idle to running, but I'm going to do idle first. Now running should be last, so running over here, and then walking over here. So it should go from idle to walking to running. Now what you want to do is let's make a connector from idle to walking, make transition. So you right click and then click on the first movement, then click on the second movement. Now click on this transition. Let's say you want to remove it, you just press this minus sign and it'll remove it. Here, let's do one walking back to idle. Now let's say you only want to go from idle to walking, and that will go on forever, and you don't want it to go back to idle. What you can do is you mute this one, and then it'll only do this option. Or you can go to this one and you could say solo, which I believe will make it only go through that transition. Okay. Let's name this start walking. Name this stop walking. Okay, now we need to make a Boolean variable that tells us whether or not our character is walking. It'll be important later. So let's make a Boolean is walking. And what we're going to do is we're going to implement that into the transition. So let's make the condition is walking true if we want to walk, and let's make it false otherwise to make us stop walking and make us become idle again. So basically, how do we implement this now? So what you're going to want to do is you want to go to exogray here on the left side. You want to add a component, and then you do new script. And we're going to name this animation state controller. Okay, you create that and add it, and now it creates a preset script that you'll then be able to add to. Okay, so firstly, my default editor is Atom, which I hate, so I'm just going to open this with Visual Studio Code. Okay, now this has an empty script, so it has the start, which is called before any frame is updated, and then you have update, which gets called every single time there's a new frame to make sure that our character model is being updated and our movements are being updated, etc. So firstly, what we want to do is make an animator, call it animator. Then over here, we're going to do animator is the component, the animator component. Whoops. Okay, now down here what we're going to do is create a Boolean is walking, and we're going to set that equal to the Boolean animator.getBool is running, or is walking. Okay, now what we're going to do is we need to assign a key value to make walking walk, basically. So you can choose whatever you want, but here we're going to be doing a Boolean forward press, which is going to be whether or not the animator can get the key, whether or not input gets the key W. So basically, if the user is inputting the key W, then that's a forward press, so that'll be set equal to true. Now what we're going to do is create an if statement. If you have forward press and the character is currently not running or not walking, then what you do is you set the animator boolean is walking, and you set that to true. And inversely, if you are no longer pressing W and the character is walking, then you set it to false. Set that equal to false. Okay, so this should work. What you're going to do here is you want to make sure that these transitions, give me a sec, it loads the scripts every time you edit it. What you do here is in the transitions, you want to make sure that has exit time is unclicked. What that will basically do is it'll delay the response of an input press when you want the character to move, so you want to make sure that is unclicked. So now let's press it. Let's see if there are any compiling errors. There shouldn't be, because I think it compiled before. Okay, now you walk, and it walks. Stop pressing W, and you walk, or you stop walking. Now I'm walking, not walking, walking. Cool. Okay. Let's go back to the animator and let's implement running. So let's make a transition to running. Let's make a transition back to walking. Let's set this start running. Let's set this stop running. Stop running. And now we need a Boolean variable for running or not running. Let's make sure it has exit times unclicked. Okay. Now let's make the Boolean variable is running. And let's make sure that's assigned to these ones. Now is running is going to be true if you want to start running, and it's going to be false if you want to stop running. False. Okay, so now let's go back to the editor, and what you're going to want to do is you want to make a new Boolean variable is running, and you set that to the animator's Boolean is running. And what you're going to do is make an assignment Boolean to whether or not the running button is working. So run press is equal to the input dot get key of left shift. With these editors, each button has a different term for it. So right now left shift is for the left shift. Okay. Now we have forward press, we have this for walking, and so now let's make a statement for running. So if you are currently not running, is running, and you are pressing W, as well as pressing the run button, then what you want to do is you want to start running, basically, right? So animator dot set bool is running. It's going to be true. And now we're going to do the opposite. If you are running and you either stop pressing W, so not forward press, or not run press, you're going to set that Boolean to false. is running is going to be false. Cool. So now let's see if that'll work. Okay. Pressing W, walking. Now pressing left shift, running. Stopping, pressing left shift, stop running. Stop pressing W, walking. Walking, running. Stop pressing W, but keep pressing shift, walking. Okay. Cool. It's starting to look like an actual character. Now what we're going to be doing is using the blend feature to make this process a little smoother, make the character look a little smoother. So firstly, get rid of these transitions and then move this process out of the way. And what we're going to do is create the new blend tree state. Now let's make transitions to and from there. And what we're going to do is firstly make sure that the has exit time is turned off. Has exit time turned off. And then we're going to create the new condition, which is going to be using the blend float, which came with the blend tree. So let's initiate that, and we're going to say when it's greater than 0, it goes into the blend tree. And when it is less than 0.01, then it goes back to walking. Or sorry, then it goes back to idle. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the blend tree. We are going to add a motion to the blend tree. Add motion field. We're going to click this and go to walk. And then we're going to add another motion, which is going to be running. And now what we're going to do is change the script. And so in the script, we're going to make a new float, blend velocity. We set that equal to 0. We're also going to make two floats, acceleration and then deceleration. Now you'll notice that I'm putting 0.1 for acceleration, and then I'm going to do 0.5 for deceleration. And what that's doing is it's making the character decelerate faster than it accelerates. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of all this. We don't need any of this anymore. We're going to just use the forward press feature. And we're going to say that if you're pressing forward, if forward press and the velocity is less than 1, to ensure that we don't go forever into the future, into the greater blend velocity, we're going to increase the blend velocity plus equal to the delta time, which is the time in between each frame. I'll tell you that by acceleration. And now we're going to do the opposite. So now if you are not pressing forward and the blend velocity is greater than 0, then we're going to decelerate. So blend velocity minus equal delta time times deceleration. And now just for good measure, if we are not forward pressing and we go less than 0, we don't want it to go less than 0 forever, we're going to make the blend velocity equal to 0. F. Okay, now what we have to do is set the animator float, which is blend, to our local variable blend velocity, which will update the blend stored in our animator. Okay, now let's go back here. Okay, pressing W, going, increasing in speed. We can see he's starting to run. And then when I let go of W, you can see it doesn't go past 1, then it stops. And then when I let go of W, it decreases fast until idle. Next, I'm going to quickly overview the 2D blend tree. Before we were using a one-dimensional blend tree. So all you have to do is you add a blend tree, and then what you'll do is rename it 2D blend tree. Make sure to get rid of these, and then just add it directly as the initial state. Go into that blend tree, and then what you're going to do is over here, you'll keep adding movements. I initially downloaded a walk left straight, walk right straight, a left run, and a right run. So this will automatically make this 2D graph. Make sure for the blend type you put 2D freeform. That will just make it smoother in between movements, making it freeform rather than simple directional. And then Cartesian looks a little different, but it all has to do with how it transitions from one movement to the other. So you have those, and then here these position X, position Y's will be preset to something different. So you want to put it as values that you think make sense for the movement of your character. So walking either left or right will and left run, right run will be changing the X position, which is over here, the left and right of the character. And then the Y will be the going straight. So we have idle, walking, and running for that. And this will basically put the character 2 ahead when it's running and 0.5 when it's walking, and the same thing for left and right, etc. So how do you code this? It's very complicated. It's a lot of code. So in order to save time, I'm basically going to show it to you, and you guys can pause my video and look at it, or you can go to that YouTuber that I mentioned that I got this code from, and he does this in a lot more detail. So this is essentially what you have. You have the Z and X of the blend, or the velocity that you're using, and then you can preset acceleration, deceleration. You can make it 2. And then you want to have a maximum walk and a maximum run velocity, and you'll use this within the code below. It is very complicated, a lot of different code, but just pause this and you can look it over. So yeah. And let me just show you how this looks. I'm going straight, running, let go of running, right, running, let go of running, and you can see it moves back to the walking position. Lastly, this Unity section also covers retargeting, which basically allows you to use the same logic on different characters. But seeing as it doesn't really use much of the animation controller, and that it's heavily covered by the YouTuber that I mentioned, you guys can check him out at iHeartGameDev, and I also put the link in this video. So yeah, that's also very interesting. So I hope everyone enjoyed this demo. Thank you.